Hello, welcome to another episode of Mega Manga Monday. I am Jason Hahn, and today we're talking about Chainsaw Man, Chapter 103, titled Denji Dream. We're back from a little bit of a break, and oh my god, Chapter 102 finally saw the return of the titular, one of my favorite words, titular Chainsaw Man, and oh boy, well, I was a little bit on of a vacation, so we didn't have a chance to talk 102. So we're going to talk about that as well today. But I said earlier, my name is Jason Hahn. I'm a writer for ScreenRant.com, and I happen to write a lot of video game news on that awesome website that also has lots of great comic book news. And I'm also a huge fan of manga and comics, so we decided to start Mega Manga Mondays Podcast, and I've got some buddies from the comic book section here to talk about the newest chapters of Chainsaw Man. I'll go and let them introduce themselves. Ben, how are you today, man?
I'm doing good. I'm Ben. As Jason said, I'm a writer for the comic section of Screen Rant, mainly about manga and DC and Marvel comics. I'm very excited about, I'm very excited to talk about the latest chapters because, we'll get into it, but
stuff happened.
Yeah.
And we've also got Steven. How are you today, man?
Hey, good. It's going well. Yeah, my name is Steven. I'm writer for the comic section, mostly doing manga and also other titles, mostly in IDW. But yeah, really excited about Chainsaw Man. A lot of stuff's been going on.
Yeah. We recently had a fun conversation about some very controversial mangas like My Hero Academia, and Steven definitely had some thoughts. Oh, actually, Ben had some of my favorite. One of my favorite couple words put together. Contrived convenience is the best way I've heard My Hero Academia described recently. So go back and check out those if you'd like. You can also follow us on Twitter at MMangaMondays for updates on all the different stuff we talk about. But today on Chainsaw Man, we've had a few previous discussions about Part 2. Some people love it, some people hate it. But I think most of us are at least on this podcast on the side of loving where Part 2's been heading so far. We spent some good time with Makima. No, not Makima. The War Devil. And Mitaka, thank you. I'm really bad with names, especially when I'm doing podcasts for 5 different manga series. But the War Devil, we've grown. It actually only was a few chapters, but it felt like we've spent a lifetime with her. And the chapter 102 especially put her in a very tight situation. And we thought we knew who was going to come save her, and we were wrong. It was actually Fujimoto bringing Chainsaw Man right into it right away, faster than I was thinking. I thought we were going to spend more time with War Devil, and it was a very explosive, dramatic, and honestly, it kind of brought a tear to my eye even before Chainsaw Man showed up, because we got to spend time seeing how Mitaka, her mom died, and we got to see that in action, and she seems to fall over at the worst chance, if Chainsaw Man hadn't shown up when he did, they legitimately got eaten by the what we thought was the Bat Devil, and then it turned out to be Cockroach Devil.
Actually, it was the Bat Devil. I'm pretty sure. Chainsaw Man was fighting the Cockroach Devil, and in the fight, they crashed into the building, killing the Bat Devil and causing it to spit up Mitaka and her friend.
Oh, okay.
So it's very funny. It's not even like Chainsaw Man came to save them from the Bat Devil. It was just he was fighting this other devil, and they crashed into a building. So.
Well, and also how that chapter ended, which was a lot of controversy. The Cockroach Devil, which is definitely one of the most intimidating. I loved the design. It was huge and epic, and it looked a lot like a lot of the other major devils that Denji was fighting kind of near the end of part 1. Just with seemingly bone structures all over the place, and it was a very intelligent devil too. It gave him the alternative to either save a young student or a car full of old people, and Denji made a choice.
He did make a choice, didn't
he kind of and honestly this kind of leads into 103 also, because Denji was also given a choice in 103, and like he's consistently done, he always just kind of throws the rules to the side and makes his own choice to, kind of, I guess, win in one way or another, but just kind of pulling something out that nobody expected. And in 102, that young student died, that car of old people's on fire, but Denji killed the devil and saved a kitty. There was a cat too. Sweet. And then in 103, we get, honestly, I've been kind of talking a while. I feel like I should let you guys we kind of just ran over 102 going into 103, but what were your guys' thoughts on 102?
I just want to bring up, since you brought up the cat save, it's very interesting. First of all, it's completely in line with Denji's character and part of what makes him such a unique protagonist. Whether he's still the protagonist of this part, I think we'll probably debate when we discuss 103. Mm-hmm. But the thing that struck me was how the news covered, and I guess we'll also talk about this in 103, but like the end of 102, it's just like, you see the dead bodies of the people he didn't save, and the news saying he saved a cat, which means that seems like the news establishment is like on his side, even if individual people might not be, which was very interesting to me. So,
and I kind of loved how 103 actually just almost started and went full in on that. The newest chapter started out with like a news crew at the scene, where if you just read 102, it was very bloody. A lot of people died. A lot of buildings were destroyed. It was kind of a big thing, and it just seems so odd that we're right back to where that happened, and I think they said it happened yesterday. We're at the site of yesterday's battle, and people are just minding their own business, and like nothing ever happened. And it kind of reminds me, especially because we start following a news crew that's like getting people's interpretation. We're getting the public's view of Chainsaw Man, and we get a lot, almost like a dozen people's interpretation, and a lot of them love him. Some people are just like, meh, whatever, he's too popular, I don't care, and others are,
one kid, he's too mainstream or something.
It ticks me off. And then it doesn't exist, it's American propaganda. And we have like a 2-page spread of just all these different people, and then you turn the page and it's Denji. We get the first look at Denji, not turned into Chainsaw Man, that we haven't gotten in a long time. And I laughed out loud. You turn the page and you just see a whole page of Denji, like, oh, I don't know who Chainsaw Man is or anything, but he's so cool and handsome and all those things. And if you want his phone number, it's probably
he definitely didn't eat that cat.
He definitely, definitely didn't eat the cat, because they're expecting, somebody thought that he ate the cat. The owner of the cat said that.
Well, I mean, I was just like, just because we're talking on the cat before we go in further into 103, like,
absolutely,
something I was thinking about. Well, I'm just really glad that they just had that whole cat thing, is because it just reminded me a lot of Meowie, from part 1. That
Powers.
was
Powers.
Powers cat. So, like, even though it wasn't stated outright, which is something I enjoy about Chainsaw Man, Fujimoto likes to keep it up to the readers to make their own interpretations. But and that's basically the parallel that I saw. I mean, it definitely adds to his character, or contributes to what we already know about his character, like Ben was saying. But it also, it just kind of connects us back to a character that we still very much miss and are wondering about.
Yeah.
Even though it's a pretty thin correlation, I mean, it's still there. The cat was a pretty big part of part one, so it's just good to see something like that again.
Well, especially when it in 102, it was revealed that, names again. The girl possessed by the war devil,
Asa.
Asa, thank you. Asa saved a cat whilst they were being chased by a devil, and her saving the cat caused her to fall, and then her mom rescued her, and because her mom rescued her, mom was put in a situation where a car was being flung at, and that's what killed her mom. So it's interesting that we have Denji also rescuing this cat that was, in trouble from this cockroach devil, but also it's kind of relating to power as well. It's just like, okay, why do we have these three main characters so closely related to this rescuing a cat, essentially?
These cats are awesome.
Maybe Fujimoto has a big thing for cats. That'd be kind of cool.
It's true.
He's just sitting there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like my cat kept bugging me while drawing this, so I'm gonna make it a thing, I guess. But I don't know. Rule of threes. We've kind of had we've had three major characters rescue cats, and so I'm wondering if it's gonna be important some way or another. But kind of leading right into 103. It's really giving me, as I was reading this chapter especially, is giving me The Boys vibes on how I'm not going to ruin anything about that series. I've only watched the Amazon show, which is amazing. I haven't read the comic, but the whole premise of that show.
Don't read the comic.
I might after the series wraps up, just to see what they did with it, but I won't spoil anything about the show. But the premise of that show is essentially if we live in a world filled with superheroes and we decide to base movies off of them, we glorify them, and they're these amazing, heroes that do no good or do no bad. And then you start following this group of guys who are trying to bring these superheroes to justice, because they're actually not all wonderful people. Some of them are actually terrible people who are killing lots of people all over the world, and they're trying to make them accountable. But media and the capitalism machine is just trying to convince the world that, oh no, all these people are awesome, and they're in these movies, go see these movies. It's all kind of a big machine to keep people distracted and buying, and keep buying stuff, essentially. And this chapter is making it feel like the Chainsaw Man world is starting to move towards that. I don't know how big they're gonna make that a part of it, but we even get a panel of some guy in a terrible Chainsaw Man outfit with secondhand clothing, 30% off. It just means that the whole idea of Chainsaw Man is making a lot of money in this world. And Denji's not making any of that money, as it was established at the near the end of this chapter, because he is taken to a cafe by help me with names again, guys. Yoshida, who we saw run into the War Devil earlier, and he's been in part 2. He says he's working for some new mysterious organization that wants Denji to have a peaceful life. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But he even tells us it's not like some shadowy manga organization. It's just there's several parts of this chapter, especially, that got a little meta. That was one of them. And I really liked one of the first people we got when they were asked by the reporters, what do you think of Chainsaw Man? It was almost like a guy in real life saying, oh, I love it, I'm a big fan. It's a little gory for kids, though. It's oh, wait, are you talking about the series or the guy? Because, yeah, the guy, of course, but, I don't know. It's not just Chainsaw Man that's gory. It's all devils and stuff, so just that little bit of meta humor I really, really enjoyed. But,
yeah, well, if you, look at Fujimoto's last couple of one-shots, right? They've all had sort of a meta aspect in a way, or an aspect of responding to common criticisms they're leveled against his style. So I think the popularity of Chainsaw Man between part 1 and part 2 has really like affected him and made him think about a lot of things and want to say a lot of things in response. So it was inevitable based on those one shots that we'd be seeing a bit of that pop up in Chainsaw Man itself. And I love when authors do that sort of thing. So I was very happy with it.
Yeah, and it's kind of...
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, I agree. It's cool. What do you got, Steven?
Well, no, I was going to say, like, being happy with things. I'm just curious what you guys thought, about Chapter 102 when Denji came to the rescue. I mean, actually, like, when it happened, and I still kind of feel this way, a little disappointed almost, which is basically the opposite of what a lot of people are experiencing, just because I had wanted there to be more of a focus or Mitaka's story. Of course, it's going to continue going. I mean, I doubt it's just going to be like, okay, we're back with Denji. We're not going to focus on you anymore. Mm-hmm. But it's like, because I remember when we were talking about, before you went on vacation, at 101, we were all saying, it's like, yeah, that'd be so funny if Denji came. And we're like, no, that would never happen because that'd be
right. It'll probably be Yoshida.
Yeah, and it's because that was the thing. Yeah, I wanted it to be Yoshida. It's like, it has to be. It has to be. So I guess I'm just curious about what you guys feel. I mean, at least with this chapter, with 103, I am enjoying the fact, we're seeing Denji being Denji. Like, he still hasn't changed at all. Like, he still has the same dreams and wants. But yeah, I'm just curious what you guys think.
Yeah, I find it hilarious that, there's so many people who are like, oh, why are we following this, like, Mitaka chick around? When are we going to get to Denji? Come on, bring on Denji. And then Denji's the main focus of the chapter, and they're like, where's Mitaka? Come on, give us more of that storyline. Right. And I think, like, I'm in that boat where I'm like, I'm happy that Denji showed up, and it's nice to see what he's doing now, and, like, that he hasn't really changed too much. But I'm invested in Mitaka now. I think that, like, her relationship with the War Devil is super fascinating, especially given that she wouldn't transform into the War Devil to fight the Bad Devil, and it almost cost them their lives. So I'm very curious to see the aftermath of that. But it just strikes me as funny, the public reaction to it that I've seen. And maybe it's just because, random commenters commenting are probably going to be different people. So maybe the people who were complaining, are now happy. But I just find it very funny if there are people who are like, super upset about Denji not being the main focus. And now that he's the main focus, they're like super upset that Mitaka is not the main focus.
Well, I think, like, I mean, you brought up I believe you said it, Ben. You're invested in Mitaka's story, like, her relationship with the War Devil and how unique it is, and that's the point, is the relationships. Like, for me, Denji was always a cool character, but what got me invested in him through the later chapters, and what I remember most about Denji in part 1, is his relationship, with Power and those other characters that we knew, and also wanting to know more about his relationship with Nayuta. Mm-hmm. So it's like we get Denji back, and it's like, oh, that's awesome. But it's like, what, for me at least, what defined him was those relationships that he had with those various characters, and we don't have that yet. I mean, of course, I'm just like, I want more type of thing. But it's like, like that's kind of like where I'm just coming from. Like, just going off what you were saying about Mitaka's relationship with the War Devil is so intriguing. It's like, yeah, Denji had intriguing relationships too, but we probably won't get to see those anytime soon.
Yeah. Given that half the cast was killed.
Yeah, I know. Right.
Yeah, after I read 102, I agreed with Steven, actually. I was kind of like, oh man, I want to stick with Mitaka, and I want to see what happens, especially with the War Devil drama that we had building. I'm invested, and I think that's kind of a good sign. When Denji shows up and we're like, oh man, I as happy as I am to see Denji, I want to see War Devil and Mitaka's drama unfold, and that's a great sign. Like, it only took a couple chapters, but Fujimoto got us very invested in this other character that is definitely going to be playing a major part in it later. And if we didn't have chapter 103, I would have been like, oh, I don't know. I mean, we didn't see Denji. We definitely saw Chainsaw Man. So maybe it'll cut back to Mitaka and we'll still be like, okay, well, we still have all this mystery of Denji and Chainsaw Man and all this. But then 103 happens and Mitaka, War Devil, is nowhere to be seen. And I'm honestly a little disappointed that we didn't get any of them in 103 at all. But incredibly happy that Denji is back, and also it didn't turn into like, okay, well, let's go see what Denji's up to today, let's go to his house and get all this information on what his life is like. It's just setting up more mysteries while Denji is, exactly as you said, Steven, like, he hasn't changed at all. He still doesn't know like what he really wants in life. It feels like he thinks he knows what he wants. He wants to touch some boobs still. Essentially, he wants people to find out that he's Chainsaw Man, so then all the ladies will be attracted to him.
Yeah, which I do think is a key. I think there's a key difference between touching boobs and having ladies be attracted to you, because as you found out in part 1, touching boobs is meaningless without a relationship behind it.
That was an awesome moment.
Yeah, so
one of my favorite points. Well, then of course Makima's also like, "Ooh, let me show you what you actually want." But anyway.
Yeah. So, but I just wanted to make that clarification because, like, I do think a lot of people complain about the whole touching boobs sort of subplot in part 1. And,
I don't know why, because he did grow, like you're saying, like
Yeah, and that growth, I wanted. I think that he still has that growth. It's just, he's still a teenage boy who is still very
That's true. You want a relationship, but you're still gonna like boobs anyway. I mean, that's not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's not just all about the boobs,
and I mean, that's a great point too. If I'm saying that he still just wants to touch boobs, that's that could be insinuating that he hasn't grown at all as a person or anything like that. And if all we had from this chapter, I don't know, this chapter almost is a return to form, but at the same time, it's not saying that necessarily Denji has not grown as a person at all. But it's kind of nice. Like, this is almost like peacetime Denji. It's everything that happened at the end of part 1. Just we comfortably get to see, like, this is just Denji like a few weeks later almost. Like, he's definitely kind of settled into his role, I feel like. But I don't know. I'm very curious if we're just going to follow him after this, or if we're going to jump back to Mitaka, because we've kind of gotten to that period where honestly we'd be fine with either or. I'm 100% in to see where this goes next. But I just loved all the comedy in this one, like, especially after the dramatics of 102 and the awesome return of action in Chainsaw Man. Just the paneling's fantastic and all that stuff. This chapter just felt like a huge break, because it's just a return. Like, it's a return to all the things that people wanted of Chainsaw Man, I feel like. And the comedy of Denji not knowing, or just ordering everything the cafe has, essentially. And I really, really enjoyed, like, Yoshida kind of saying, like, okay, I need you to do this thing, or I won't give you this silverware, and you can't eat any of the things you ordered. And Denji's like, well, I'm going to eat this thing anyway. I'm not going to abide by your rules. It's so Denji. Like, it's just such great character writing in the smallest of circumstances. Like, in chapter 102, we got the huge example of these people's lives are on the line and you need to make a choice. And he's like, okay, I'm going to make a choice, but I'm not listening to what you're saying. And this is almost exactly what that was too. It's just like, hey, you need to make a choice. And Denji's just like, all right, well, I I heard what you said, but I'm just gonna make my own choice regardless of what you're throwing at me. And it's just nice. I'm really happy with the direction that these chapters are going. But let's see. I have a couple other notes on this too. I'm really curious on like the population kind of deciding. You know, some of them are worshiping him. Some of them are just kind of, you know, brushing the whole devil people dying all over the place aside. And we got that previously too, with the guy just yelling in the street about how 7 out of 20 people are killed by devils. And it's just weird. It's just really weird to me how nonchalantly people are being about it, and I wonder if that's just going to be a common thing or if there's really a reason behind it. But
it doesn't strike me. It just strikes me as human nature, right? I think. Yeah, you go.
No, I was just going to say no, exactly. That it's basically. Yeah, human nature. I mean, it's like what COVID happened. You know, it's like everyone was like, "Oh my god!" Like, and rightfully so. But now it's like no one really cares anymore, even though it's still there. It's like we just got used to it, and we're just like we're just adapting to it.
Boy,
I mean, even at the time, people were like, "Yeah, okay, sure."
Yeah.
So, I think it's just human nature. Even if there's something that's out there killing people, they're like, well, but I'm not guaranteed to die. I can just go about my business. It's fine. I won't die. I'm me, you know?
Yeah. People just like living a normal life until a big demon shows up in front of them, I guess. Or devil.
Yeah. So I think it's just human nature.
Do you think we'll get a COVID devil?
Well, Chainsaw Man killed off a virus or two, right? He like eradicated a virus completely by eating the devil for it. So there have been virus devils in the past, but I feel like he'd just eradicate certain. Yeah, you know, maybe we'll get that, but yeah, you just eat a virus devil and get rid of it.
You know, an interesting moment. That happened, and it kind of goes on what Jason was saying, kind of like meta in a way. But when Yoshida, introduces himself to Denji, Denji's like, I don't remember you type of thing. Yeah. It's kind of one of like, just for those of us who didn't remember who he was. But at the same time, it also was kind of like, feels like it was more than that because it was almost aggressive. Like he Yoshida's like, oh yeah, remember, you had those assassins after you, so I was there guarding you, and it's just like Denji's like never happened. Like it kind of just feels like it's more than just being that haha. Some people didn't remember who Yoshida was, but I was wondering what you guys thought about that little conversation because it just seemed like a little aggressive. It's like, nope, never happened.
It almost makes it seem like he legitimately didn't remember it. Like there's some sort of thing that's like altering his memories, maybe.
I don't think it's if he legitimately didn't remember. I don't think it's because his memories are being altered. But like, remember what else happened around that arc, right? Like that's when they went down to hell, met the Darkness Devil. Like there were a lot of intense things going on in that arc. So. It's understandable. It's understandable if he just doesn't remember this one guy of 20 guys who are trying to come after him.
Yeah, then again, it is quite understandable. I mean, he had a lot going on at the time.
Yeah. But it could also just be he's like, I don't want to talk to you. I'm just gonna.
Yeah, because when I was reading that, I'm like, I was trying to remember, and I couldn't think of it because Denji was never one of those characters where I want to do everything alone, or he believes he can do everything. Like he doesn't have that type of personality. Because that was the only thing that I could take from it. I'm saying never happened as though I don't need anyone to protect me, but he was never that type of a character. So, but
yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, I don't know. I think it was just a fun moment, which could be interpreted as just oh, he doesn't actually remember him because he's kind of ditzy. Mm-hmm. or it could just be like, you know, he doesn't really want to talk to this random guy, you know, who he met a long time back in an assassination arc. Like,
yeah, you're not a chick. Why are you talking to me now?
Yeah, so he's like, no, I don't remember you. Yeah, move along now. I'm gonna go. But yeah, I really liked their interaction. You know, maybe part two's main protagonist is Yoshida. Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't know. We would need to follow him along a little bit more. Which, I mean, we're definitely going to be getting more of him. You don't just drop. I work for some organization that's been asked me to keep an eye on you. You don't just drop that, and we don't get more details about that later.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm curious what this new organization's going to be like. I almost expect it to be ran by that assassin dude who taught Denji and Power. Gave them a little bit of a training montage. Is that his name?
Oh yeah, that whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a drinking problem.
Yeah, he's still kicking around. So, but yeah, it's also nice to know like what kind of cafes serve cake, iced coffee, orange juice, and spaghetti. It's pretty. I need to go to Japan, guys. Check this out.
Yeah.
I also love that just Denji is still I wouldn't say uneducated dude. He's never gone to school, but he was spending a few panels trying to figure out how to say creme caramel custard pudding. And that's kind of when Yoshida like realizes just like, I could probably try to take advantage of this guy, and he comes up with the idea to take away Denji's utensils. And then Denji.
He's just like, okay, sure. Eats with his hands.
Yeah. Well, and then it kind of, it seems like Yoshida's trying to control him in one way or another, and Denji just isn't about being controlled anymore, especially by this dude. And that's kind of another thing I loved about it was just the paneling of, once my secret's out, the ladies will be all over me. And Yoshida's just like, well, yeah, but shit, he's right. And that's how the chapter ends. Like, I was 100% ready for another 20 pages of how this conversation was going to go, but the last page we get is a bird in a cage above Denji eating this cake, and Yoshida trying to figure out how to possibly control Denji. So take that as you will. We have a portrait perfectly right above them, center stage, of a bird in a cage, and I don't think Denji's about being controlled anymore. And that's kind of what we got in 102. Also, the Cockroach Devil tried to control Denji to make one choice or another, and Denji just isn't about that. So I'm definitely interested to see if we're going to stick with Denji or if we're going to jump back to Mitaka after this. But what would you guys like to see happen next?
Well, I could, for me personally, I see two paths forward. One, we have one more chapter with Denji as the focus, where he goes back home and we see his relationship with Naita. That is a possibility. I think it's.
Yes,
I think
please.
Fujimoto might be saving it for later, though, so we might not see that yet. Or two, we go back to Mitaka and her friend, and see the sort of fallout from Mitaka not listening to the War Devil and everything that happens there, which I'm very interested in. I'm more interested in that actually than seeing Denji's relationship with Naita, which, maybe I can see other people feeling the complete opposite, but I just love, I mentioned this before, I love Mitaka and the War Devil's relationship.
What if we get both in the next chapter? What if?
That would be great.
Yeah,
that would be a dream come true.
I'm hoping like Denji's, like walking home, he opens the door and War Devil's there waiting for him. She's just like,
I don't want that. if it happened like that, I would not be on board because that would just force a final confrontation way too early.
Oh, for sure. Well, it would definitely get things going. That's kind of one weird statement I may have read from one of our other possible guests we were almost about to have, was that nothing's happening. And I feel like lots of things are happening, like especially it's kind of moving. We've got two major plot threads ready to converge, and when they do converge, it's gonna it's unexplored territory at that point. So I almost feel like Fujimoto is the type of guy to do that. So I could see that happening next chapter, and then who knows what will happen after Mitaka and Denji meet. But I too am very, very interested to see or learn really anything new about the Control Devil's new persona, because we barely got any information about her other than Denji, hey, you have to take care of this little girl, by the way, she's the new Control Devil. So maybe he got spaghetti for the Control Devil. Maybe he's just like, oh, get that to go, because I've got a daughter to feed. So yeah, I guess that's what I want to happen. What to happen next? How about you, Steven?
I would actually, something that I really liked about these first few chapters, just with part 2, was, not just because the focus wasn't on Denji, but the fact that it wasn't on him, and we saw people, talking about him, and we saw people with talking about various Chainsaw Man merchandise type of thing. It was it kind of portrayed him as a typical hero, because in part one we were always with Denji, so we didn't have that, we were always with him, so he was a special character, but he wasn't untouchable. But in part 2 we're seeing this side where it's they're talking about this hero that we're never seeing because he's doing something else, he's mysterious. They were saying, oh, he's here, but maybe he's not here. And I kind of would like it, since they brought him in, if he just disappears mysteriously, and we don't see him again. I just like that type of energy going, where it's just he just comes and goes because we don't have, we're not connected to him as much anymore. We're basically the regular citizens who aren't attached to him in any way. I kind of like to see that continue.
So yeah, I agree.
So are you almost hoping it jumps into back to Mitaka after this then?
Yeah, at least almost immediately, or just a slow fade. I just like that type of energy that we were getting before.
I actually thought we were going to get that after chapter 102. I thought Denji was just going to show up as Chainsaw Man, and it wouldn't actually cut to him as Denji afterwards, because Mitaka didn't know that Denji is Chainsaw Man. So we wouldn't be following Denji, but and I was a big fan of that idea. So I would be okay if Fujimoto went back to that after just seeing Denji through Yoshida's eyes for a chapter, kind of. But
it's just so weird if you think about it. It's we're reading the story. It's about Chainsaw Man, and it's just wild to think that we're thinking he was able to introduce us to this whole totally completely different character. Even after a year, we haven't seen Denji in a year. And we're talking about this character that we just met a few chapters ago. It's just kind of stunning how this is working, because we wanted part 2 to come back so we can continue Denji's story, and now we're at this part where it's I actually kind of want to go back to Mattia. It's just such an interesting dynamic he's creating here. It's we finally have him, and now it's how about you go away for a bit? It's just nuts.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just really proves how great of a writer Fujimoto is. It definitely coming off of our My Hero Academia chat, it's just oh man, I just love how all these pieces fit together, and it's almost if he jumps back to Mitaka now, he's okay, well, I gave you guys what you wanted, and now you're still complaining. So I'm gonna go back to this other one. But I agree with what Ben was saying earlier. I'm sure it's different people complaining. It's just we're reading online, and all you see is complaints.
That'd be funny if it's the same people, though.
Yeah. I'm hoping for that.
They're just like, I'm pivoting. Time to pivot. But yeah, any other thoughts on Chainsaw Man, guys, before we move into plugs and recommendations? Because I kind of got through my notes, and yeah, just I loved both 102 and 103. And honestly, it almost... We kind of got a lot of our predictions correct, I feel, at our previous Chainsaw Man discussions, especially with like chapter 100 and 101. Just how they're so like relaxed and focused on building up the characters and dynamic between Mitaka and her friends, and really getting that breath where like I was like, I think this is just the calm before the storm. I think, you know, we're going to be getting to gigantic Chainsaw Man building crushing action and stuff like that. And that's exactly what happened in 102. The chapters before that were like, man, not a lot's happening. It's just like, well, usually when that happens in manga, that means something big's about to happen. And that's exactly what we got. So we got another relaxed chapter after that. I would say this 103 was a relaxed chapter, even though it was filled with lots of information and revelations, and really just checking up on Denji. And I could see the next chapter, you know, continuing to check up on Denji. But if that's the case, I'm hoping that we get one more chapter of Denji and then get back to War Devil, because I'm very interested to see their reaction, especially after their friend passed out and we did get to see Chainsaw Man in battle. So, but we'll definitely be talking about it when the next chapter comes out in a couple weeks. So keep an eye out for that. But yeah, any final thoughts on the series before we move in, guys?
Yeah, I've got two, one trivial, one less trivial.
Yeah,
one is that, you know, the way that the sort of news program was going at the beginning of the chapter, and the way that the news is shaping how people view Chainsaw Man as a hero, really reminded me of one of my least favorite Batman comics, The Dark Knight Returns. So I'm curious if Fujimoto's ever read that.
That's the second one, right?
Yeah, that's...
Wait, are we talking about the movies or the comics?
No, the comics.
Yeah, there hasn't
the
been
Frank
a movie.
Miller comic. There was an animated movie for it, but yeah, I you know, people view it as one of the best Batman comics of all time. I think it's less good than people think it is, but it's just interesting, the parallels between that, because that also uses a lot of like news to sort of get people's views on the return of Batman and stuff. And this is the return of Chainsaw Man, and we're being introduced to people's views on that through the news and people's opinions. So I thought that was interesting. It just stuck in my mind when reading the chapter. But the more, you know, significant thing that I have to say, because that's just a fun little thing for any Western comics fans out there as well. But, you know, it's interesting to see how reading these chapters weekly affects us and other readers as well. Because, you know, part 2 is already out already, and we were binging through it. I don't think, you know, there'd be all this debate about, like, oh, is Mitaka coming back next chapter? Right. Or is she going to come back or is she coming back at all? Because, like, you know, we could just view it as a bit of a diversion or whatever, or just follow the story as it goes, because we know that we'd be able to eventually get back to the character some point down the road. But it being unclear when exactly she's coming back, you know, we have to eagerly, you know, debate whether she's actually going to be back next chapter, if we're going to have to wait that much longer to see more of a story that we're more invested in. So just fun weekly reader things that I don't blame people for waiting for the anime to come out or waiting for just the full part to be done. Because it can be a bit like, you know, I can't think of the right word, but just anticipating that next character and just waiting so hard for that next character and wanting to read more can be tough.
Well, and it's something that I really enjoy too. Like, it's something that it's the same thing with like a good TV series. Like, if you wait for the whole season to come out or the whole series and then you're able to binge it, then it kind of takes away that like anticipation and that speculation. And the anticipation and speculation is one of my favorite parts of this kind of thing. Like, if you're watching Game of Thrones and a main character dies and they get brought back to life a couple episodes later, like in the next season, you're like, oh man, well, anybody who's binging that didn't have to wait the whole year of that character being dead and you just speculating like, oh my god, what is this? How is this going to change everything? And you have fun conversations and all that stuff. So I'm glad to have you guys to talk new chapters every week, and it definitely adds a lot of fun and speculation, and that's really, I think, one of my favorite parts of being a nerd. So I'm happy to be there with you guys.
No, I completely agree. Yeah, the speculation is a lot of fun.
But Steven, any final thoughts on the chapter, man?
On this chapter, not really. I mean, it's basically like I was saying. I would be be interesting to get back to Mitaka. Yeah, even though it's like after a year, it's been a year, and we finally get Denji, and it's like, okay, yeah, you can go now. It's just such a weird feeling. Such a weird feeling.
It is such a weird feeling, but for me, it's a weirdly satisfying feeling because I don't think Fujimoto could have done it in a better way. Especially because, I mean, this is a comedy, and just especially when you're turning page by page, and it's, if you just think of like the pacing wise too, while you're reading it, you're like, okay, we have these 2 pages of like 18 panels of just different people giving you an idea of what Chainsaw Man is. Then you turn the page and you see that glorious face that you've been wanting to see for more than a year. Denji there. And it's just, I don't think he could have done it in a better way. Like, it's hilarious and satisfying in so many different ways. And that being said, I'm happy to go away from him again and get back to Mitaka. So, but we'll see what happens in Chainsaw Man 104. Definitely keep an eye out for that episode when the chapter releases. We'll be talking about it on Mega Manga Mondays. But going ahead and moving into plugs and recommendations, you can follow Mega Manga Mondays on Twitter at Manga Mondays, and you'll get updates, and you can reach out to us and let us know. You can also find our podcast on YouTube. Comment on there as well. Let us know what parts you agreed with and what your favorite parts of the chapter. Oh, sorry, that was my microphone being hit. Let us know what your favorite parts of the chapters were and what your thoughts on were too. Let us know if we missed something. But I, Jason Hahn, also do a YouTube channel called Honzy and Friends. There I like to stream most Wednesdays and Sundays. Just finished God of War on the PlayStation 5. And I think the next game we're going to be playing is Stray, which is that adorable kitty cat game in a post-apocalyptic world. So that'll be fun and interesting. Keep an eye out on that. Also do some comedic Let's Play videos from time to time. Just recorded some new Metal Gear Solid 2 episodes with my good buddy Mike. So look forward to that. But Ben, how about you, man?
Yeah, in terms of recommendations, the day that we're recording this, JoJo's Stone Ocean Part 2, the anime is dropped on Netflix. Oh, yeah. And I haven't, managed to watch the whole thing yet. But the little that I've seen of it looks like they're doing a good job, although they took out Flaccid Pancake, and, I'm not sure I can forgive them for that. But it seems like they're just continuing their stellar work that they did in part 1 of that adaptation. So,
there's a character named Flaccid Pancake.
So the localization for one of the characters' stands was originally Flaccid Pancake in a video game.
Oh, okay.
So I was curious to see, because the official translation hasn't actually reached this point, I think, for the manga. I think it actually might have recently, but the official translation is so far behind the Japanese manga. But So the only localization we'd have of his stand for a long time was just Flaccid Pancake, and I was really hoping they'd keep that. But they changed it because the original name was Limp Bizkit. They changed it to Limp Bizkit. So
it's just one of those days.
Yeah, maybe.
But Flaccid Pancake was just so good, and they took it out.
Lethal. Bring it on.
Still looks like they're doing a great job, though. Not the fault of the anime itself.
Right.
Not even really the fault of the translation team, because they might have been like, Flaccid Pancake might turn people away from this.
Oh no, that's hilarious. Oh man,
yeah.
that's one thing I've learned about JoJo was the magical stands that people have are all named after really popular bands and stuff. And if the series keeps going, they're going to run out of artists to name things after. I mean,
you think that, but
I think he did run out of names when he decided to name one of them Limp Bizkit.
No, he just has a wide variety that he pulls from. He listens to a lot of stuff. I just hope that
Limp Bizkit is actually in the manga. It wasn't taken out, or because I remember.
So in the localization for the manga, they changed the name. Thing, but in the original Japanese, they have different copyright laws, so you're allowed to just name things after bands and things.
Yeah. So this was actually something like I started getting into JoJo a couple years ago, and I've only gotten to like part 4 or 5 maybe, but that was something that was totally missing in my experience of JoJo, because I was watching it on like Netflix or something, and the version I was watching it with changed the names of all the stuff, so I wasn't getting the whole like band name experience until I heard about that online, and I think that's hilarious.
Well, if you watch the sub, you can still hear the Japanese voice actors saying Limp Bizkit or whatever. Even if the subtitles
very dramatically, yes.
Does the Limp Bizkit stand have like a backwards red baseball cap?
No, there's a character in part 6 with a baseball cap, but the Limp Bizkit stand it basically resurrects dead corpses as invisible zombies.
Weird. I thought it would throw like edible starfishes at you.
No,
chocolate starfish.
Maybe sometime in the future, but part 6 stands are weird. It's when the series is like, it was already getting to that point, but then it's like Araki was like, let's just ramp it up a little bit. Let's make stands that are just insanely weird. It is great.
That's actually why I stopped watching at part 5, because some of the stands were just too silly. But so check out JoJo's new season on Netflix. And any plugs, buddy?
Yeah, so I have a YouTube channel of my own called YGO From Zero, where I do deep dives into Yu-Gi-Oh's historical formats. It's very fun if you enjoy that sort of thing. Definitely check it out. I think I just reached 69 subscribers. I'm either at 68 or 69.
Nice.
Which is a very funny milestone. So I just wanted to mention that. And if I'm at 68, you, the viewer, could be my 69th subscriber. So,
get an award ready or a plaque or something.
Exactly.
All right.
Your no prize will be in the mail.
Number 69. All right. Hey, Steven, any plugs or recommendations, buddy?
Well, first, KG number 8, the latest chapter is chapter 69. I don't know if that...
Ooh.
Yeah, I haven't read it yet, but
nice.
Like just on that topic, like I just love everything from Shonen Jump Plus or Manga Plus. Like Kaiju is from that, and I just really like the series a lot more than what's on Shonen, just the regular Shonen Jump. I don't know why. Like just really into Make the Exorcist Fall in Love. I know I've mentioned that a few times. There's that new one called Skeleton Double, like the second chapter just dropped. I'm really excited to get into that. And apparently there's a new series that also came out today on Manga Plus called Ghostbuster Osamu. So I'm really excited to read that. I don't know, every single time like a new title comes on Shonen Jump, I kind of like approach it with a grain of salt, but every single time something new comes on Shonen Jump Plus, I'm just much more excited.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, other than that, on a side note, I've been revisiting my love for Powerpuff Girls recently. So I've been enjoying reading a lot of IDW Publishing. They did a series for the Powerpuff Girls, and I'm reading it now, and it's actually like a great sequel. I don't know if any of you guys like that, but the Powerpuff Girls movie from 2002 that basically like changed why the Powerpuff Girls were made, and Mojo Jojo's origin story, and the comics is from IDW is kind of continuing that. So I've been really enjoying that just because I'm a big Powerpuff Girls fan, because I just got the boys into it and they love Powerpuff Girls, so I'm really happy.
I enjoyed that a lot as a kid. Yeah.
So is it better than the reboot series that they made recently?
Oh, so I actually really like the reboot series. I love the original, of course. I mean, that's what I grew up on. But I'm loving that the reboot. Like it's kind of like the same as the Sonic Boom TV show. It's like basically just a comedy of Sonic. Yeah. I just like that aspect where it's like kind of like Teen Titans Go type of thing, where it's not like the original. See, it's like a funner twist.
I hate Teen Titans Go exactly for that reason, and that's why I don't like the Powerpuff Girls reboot as well. That, and also the fact that like a writer wrote themselves into the show as like a character that the girls have a crush on.
That guy? Oh, is that really? Yeah, that kid? Really?
Yeah, that's like a self-insert character, and it's like, ooh.
Well, apparently Craig McCracken is coming back. They're rebooting the original series.
Oh, okay, so that could probably be a bit better than.
Yeah, I could see how the reboot could bother some people. It's just like there's like I didn't know they could make Bubbles cuter than she already is, and that's what the reboot. Like I love the heck out of it. Like anything Powerpuff Girls, and I'm still sad. Like to this day, like when I was a kid, I remember I really wanted to get a Bubbles doll, and I remember my grandfather, from a different time. He was like, "No, you're not getting that doll." I remember just being like, "I wanted Bubbles."
Yeah, I remember watching it as a kid on Cartoon Network and loving it, but I remember it definitely being a comedy, with action and cool stuff in it. But I haven't tried the reboot at all.
The reboot really kind of like turns the comedy up a lot. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with Sonic Boom, but it's basically like just like a satirical look at the whole series. Like Mojo Jojo's in it, but he's basically like he's kind of like their friend. Not like it's just weird. Like it's just not really crime fighting as much. It's just them getting into random shenanigans. Like there's like one episode that the boys keep on making me watch over and over again.
Oh boy.
Is about this unicorn a horse that wants to be a unicorn. It's just like, what is happening right now?
I think that's so weird how kids like gravitate towards a single episode. Like I showed my little guy Samurai Jack. And there's just like one or two episodes that he just wants to watch on repeat, which are fantastic episodes, so I don't mind too bad. But we'll go ahead and cut things off here. Thank you guys so much for your time. And definitely excited for Chainsaw Man 104. But please check out other Mega Manga Monday episodes. Also, if you're into series like One Piece, Dragon Ball Super, My Hero Academia, and plenty of other stuff. So definitely check us out, and also ScreenRant.com. We're all writers there. I write a lot of video game stuff, and my buddies write introspective and interesting stuff about comics and manga. But that'll do it for Mega Manga Mondays, and we'll talk to you guys next time.
Yeah, see you all then.
Peace.
Yep.
Yep.